Hello and welcome to this hsbMake video on the general updates we've done in hsbClient with version 28. My name is Andrew Baker-Keane and I'll give you a quick overview of what has changed. One of the first things we did was add a wall icon to represent the side of the panel or wall that the label was added to. We've also added visualization for metal parts, whether added through our hanger program or alternatively as mass elements. Another change we did was to add the quality check image capture improvements, which makes it easier to understand which images have been captured. We also introduced relative paths for path settings that you find within hsbClient. Before I go any further, I'd like to use in a very simple example. I'm going to explain the difference between the absolute path and the relative path. So if we think of your computer having a parent folder which is labelled C, the absolute path and the relative paths are fairly similar in length. We then, inside that folder, put a hsbMake folder, and we're going to make this hsbMake folder the current working directory. So everything is going to be stored inside this folder. Inside the make folder, we obviously can have a series of subfolders, factory data and master, and the paths can have subfolders of these, and the paths are growing even longer. When we actually change the parent folder, the C, to a D, that the relative paths, because they're all relative to that initial start point working directory, have not changed. It is an advantage when we are using relative paths inside the client, moving them from a test environment to a live environment. The paths don't need to be updated. Now let's take this opportunity to look at how these changes have been put into the software. If I take this panel and I swap to the next tab, you can see I've added sections for top, bottom, left and right. And on each of those sections, I have an icon, a little red triangle. If I now take off two of those, you can see only the left and the bottom have their icon. This is a very simple and easy way to identify which face relates to which side of the panel for each of the sections. Every single section is individually controllable. The metal parts and mass elements that are now visible inside the software. If we take a drawing, it can often get very complicated, and as you can see, if I look at the 3D of this model, there is lots of different layers. So I'm just going to clean up this drawing so that I'm only looking at the central core. When I go to the next tab, I can actually visualize is the drill holes that have been put into the timbers to fix a steel plate. And when I go to the final tab, this actually shows you we are now visualizing all the steel and metalwork that is added. They can be hangers or they can be mass elements. If we now look at the latest changes to the quality checks, you can see on the quality checks we have the ability to actually capture images from either the mobile client or a camera that is attached to a desktop machine. In either instance, when we capture the images are then stored onto the server and we get a record of how many images are available, as you can see here. And when I click on the mobile client, I can bring up a QR code. This easy switch between the two ways of image capture makes it really easy for people to understand what images have been taken as a result of the quality check. Next, I want to look at the relative paths that have been enabled inside the client. Configuration settings, you can see we have a data path, which houses all the information about the geometry, and a configuration path that holds information about which tabs are supposed to be displayed. If we decide to delete out this set data path, so instead of actually utilizing the data path within this file, you will automatically get the data path that is available inside the configuration file. If no configuration is set, then that would be blank and would need to be set. If we now turn our attention to the configuration path, if I close down the file and then reopen it, as you can see, the configuration path has turned into a relative path. It's looking where the file is stored for this client, and it's saying that the configuration is relative to that location. So what benefits do all of these changes give you? Firstly, you've got greater visibility of items that are available to design. The next thing is we see the camera configuration is a lot simpler and easier to understand. And the third benefit is we can easily move files from one location to another by using relative paths rather than absolute. This is great for going from a server to a live system. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for sparing your time to watch this video. My name has been Andrew Baker-Keane, and I'm sure you will find these new features really useful.